Hey there, welcome to my video channel. So in the last video, we talked about creating a widget using Material app. And in that, we added a home widget with the help of Scaffold. Today, we are going to add a floating action button and a button on the action bar. So let me first illustrate what I mean by that. So the button which usually appears at the bottom right corner of the screen is called floating action button because it usually floats at the bottom of the screen. And the buttons which you see on the app bar are considered action buttons. So for example, in this one, we have an options menu over here. So uh, it's called action for option menu, and similar to that, start chat, frequently accessed button. Okay, so let's first add this button, a similar button over here in our application. So let's say we would like to add a plus button at the bottom of the screen as a floating action button. So that is the part of the scaffold widget. In scaffold widget, the way we have added app bar and body, similar to that, we have one more property called the floating action button. I just pressed Control and space in order to show this suggestions, and we have this over here, floating action button. And I'm going to create a new floating action button. The class is already listed in the pop-up, and in the parameters, um, we're supposed to specify the child, I think. So yes, so I would specify the child by with an icon. Okay, with an icon. So icon. Okay, for icon, I think there is a constructor in which we can supply the icon. So icon and icons dot. We're looking for add button, so which is over here. So I'm going to select that, and for each button it is necessary to add on press event. So I'm going to use that on press parameter, and for now in that method, or say in that parameter, I have provided inline function basically, and in that function I'm not going to add anything. And let me get rid of this warning by adding the const. Now let's run the application and see that in action over here. So in a couple of seconds, we would see that reflecting over here, and the actions would appear on the app bar. That's why it's called AppBarActions. So let's first take a look at the floating action button. Now we have a floating action button over here, and it has the effect as well. All right, so it is time to add a float, the app bar action on the top of the app bar. The way we have added floating action button, we can add a button on the app bar. So in the app bar, let's say if you want to add over here, so I would just add one more parameter and say actions. So in that we can have number of actions. So let's say I would like to add an action for the search. So what I can do is create an icon button over here, and for on pressed, for now I'm not gonna write anything on click of it, but for icon I would provide icons dot search. Okay, so, and I just reformatted the whole file, and I would remove the warning. with the help of IDE. Now, if you take a look at the code, you can see that we already have too much of nesting and code is required to be separated out. And you can see that we have material app. Inside material app, we have home widget with the help of scaffold. In scaffold, we have AppBar. In AppBar, we have icon button inside actions, and so on and so forth. So basically, it's too complicated to read for a developer, and sometimes it's quite difficult to do bug fixing and debugging. So it's better practice to have them separated out. So let's create another class for the material app and then one class for the home screen. Okay, so I'm going to start typing over here with the ST in the Android Studio, and you would see that there are two suggestions, stateful and stateless. So for now, we would go ahead with the stateless widget, because even though we do click on those buttons, we don't see any action. It means those actions are also stateless. So I'll create a stateless widget over here, and let's say I would say hello world app. Cool. So we just created a hello world stateless widget, and in that there's a default function called widget build, which would take care of building the widget. So by default it is returning container, but we want to return the material app. I would cut it from this run app function and I would put it over here. Cool. Now instead of putting this over here, I would create a new instance of, not new, just instance of the hello world app, and I would get rid of the warning with the help of IDE. So again, if you look at the code, it's more or less the same. Even though we have created a class, code complexity remains same. So for the home screen, I would create another class. So let's start with st, and then I can use stateless widget and say hello world home, and in this I can cut paste the scaffold and put it over here instead of container. So, and for the home parameter, we can simply pass the constructor of it, and we would get rid of this warning with the help of IDE, and we are all good. So we have a material app in the app class and home screen in a home screen class. We can do further divisions as well. So let's say, for example, body has now at the moment just one element, but what if we have 10 elements? In that case, the code which we would have over here would be very high. So when I say high, more number of lines basically. So I'm going to create a function which would return a widget and provide the name get body, and this function would basically return the body of this home screen widget. So I would cut this from this area and put it over here and put the semicolon, and instead of putting the code over here, we can simply call this function. Now whenever a function is limited to the class, we can provide underscore to the method, or say we can prefix the function with the underscore, and with that we are creating a private function. So this function would no longer be accessible by other classes, and only it would be visible for this specific class. Similar to that, we can create separate function for actions or app bar and the floating action button as well. Now we have too many classes in the same file. So I'm going to create, let's say, a new Dart file and say hello world app. So hello world app, and cut paste the whole widget over here. We have to make sure that we import this material package inside each file so that we don't get compilation errors. And here this class is not visible, and this class I'm planning to keep it in a different file. So let's say new file, Dart file, and hello world home screen. And in this file, I would keep this entire class. Okay, cool. So we have one file for the app and one file for the home screen. And in hello world app, it is throwing compilation error. All we have to do is click on this and say import the package, and we would be able to get rid of the error. Now, similar to that, we just have to click on the red bulb and import the package, and we are error free now. So let's hot reload the application, and we see no issues on the emulator. So I'm gonna take a pause here and recap what we have done so far. We created two different stateless classes, one for the application and one for the home screen. We also created a function instead of keeping everything inside the scaffold for the body, and we added one action on the app bar and one floating action button at the bottom of the screen for the home screen. So thank you for watching this video. In the next video, we would cover more topics. Have a good day. Bye.